Alright everybody, let's talk about selecting things with the lasso tool and quick select. Essentially we're going to talk about how to make a composite image. We talked about this in class, but I wanted to give you a video that basically goes back through how to do some of these basic techniques, so you can refer to it later if you wish. Now, we're going to build the salad we built in class, but I'm going to add some new techniques to this and talk to you a bit about how to make this work. Alright, now you'll notice I've got my salad bowl here on one of my tabs. I've also got my tomato. I've pulled grilled chicken, sliced mushrooms, and a nice onion that we're going to work with here. So, to start off with, essentially we've got our salad bowl here. This is going to be our canvas for this project, okay? Now, one of the things I would draw your attention to is if I went in and was actually to look at the canvas size. Now, the canvas size, not in pixels, this is 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. So this is a big square. This is something that we have to consider because every other image that we pull in needs to be something similar to the size of the canvas we're going to use. Now, if you'll recall that these are all raster images, which means that they are pixel dependent. We can only scale them up so much without losing quality. Same thing goes with down, but it's a little bit less apparent. So, 1,000 by 1,000. I've picked these images in particular from Google Images because they are of particular size. Okay? So that is something I've been very careful about whenever I chose my images. They are all very close to at least 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. Okay, so let's go through and talk about how we're going to make our composite. Now here's our tomato. If I hold Command plus, I'm going to just be able to zoom in. Command plus. Zoom out is Command minus. So I'll zoom in on my tomato. Now my tomato is a fairly easy thing to select. There's two basic ways we discuss selecting things in class. We can either use the quick selection tool, which is nested here with the magic wand, and we can select the tomato this way. It's fairly easy. It's one solid color against a solid background. That's easy enough. I can hit Command D to deselect. I could also use my magnetic lasso tool, nested with my other lassos, and go through and follow the outline. Oh, getting a little bit off here. Follow the outline of my tomato, and this is just making a rough selection. You can see it's fairly rough. Until I get back to the beginning. Now if I see that circle next to my mouse, that tells me I'm on my beginning point right there, or I can simply double click, click 3 times, double click, and it will try and connect back to the beginning point. Now you can see I've made some errors here with my magnetic lasso. It's pretty good, but it's not perfect. If I wanted to fix this, I could zoom in and move to where I see the errors, see the problems. Now, as we talked about in class, if I wanted to add something to my selection, what I would do is I would hold Shift, start my selection from the inside, and you can see I can go wherever I want to on the inside, and ultimately it's not going to make any difference because this is already selected. But if I go up to the edge, then I would want to be very careful to follow the outside of my tomato, and then I could just come back in wherever I wanted to, double click, and now you'd see that I've added that section to my selection. If I come down here where I see that I've gone a little bit crazy and selected outside, what I would want is to cut this out. What I would do is start outside, and I would hold Alt Option, the Alt button, and again I can do whatever I want to outside. Hold the Alt button. I can do whatever I want to on the outside, and it makes no difference whatsoever. But as soon as I get close to the tomato, I want to be very careful and just follow the line as carefully as I can. And then I can come back out here anywhere I want to, still holding Alt, double click, and now it has cut that extra section off. I can do the same thing here. It's a little bit outside. And you'll notice that I'm actually zoomed in pretty close so I can see where there's some errors in my selection. This is one where I need to add something, so I go inside, hold Shift, move to the edge, follow the line, double click, and I've added. I'm going to go through, take this part off, follow the edge, circle out big, double click, and it's gone. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now I've made my selection. With my Move tool, grab my tomato, drag it up to my solid layer, move it in, and now I would let go of the mouse, and my tomato is now in my new composition. You'll see that it's on a layer by itself, and I can scale it up or scale it down as I wish. I can also move it around. Now, you'll notice a couple of things. One, I don't have auto select on. What this means is that I could click anywhere in the selection I want to, and I still only will be working with the tomato layer. If I turned auto select on, and I'm going to unlock some of these others, if I turned auto select on, then I would be selecting whatever it is that I'm clicking on. Sometimes this is beneficial, but if I want to be very specific, then I would want to turn auto select off, so I'm only working with the one layer that I'm working with. Okay, so I've got my tomato. Now I can reshape it or resize it any way I want to. So when we're working with an image, and I just hit Command Z to undo, when we're working with an image from a photo, what we want to do is make sure that we constrain proportions. We don't want to squish it, we don't want to stretch it. What we want to do is constrain proportions if we resize. This is easy enough to do. We simply hold Shift while we click on one of the anchor boxes, and then we scale up or scale down. So if I scale down, let go, and you'll notice the heavy bars around the outside of the box that lets us know this still needs to be locked into place. It needs to be transformed. We do this by simply hitting Enter or the Return key on your keyboard. So what this does is it clarifies the image and resamples. Makes it clean and clear. Like that. But we want more than one tomato. In class I talked about duplicating. That's simple by using the Move tool, making sure you have a particular layer selected, and then holding Alt, and you'll see the mouse turns into two arrows. Now I can simply click, hold, drag, and drop where I need it to be. I'm holding Alt while I do this, holding Alt while I do this, and I can duplicate that layer. You'll notice now I have the original tomato, and then layer 1 copy, copy 2, copy 3, copy 4, so forth and so on, all the way up my layer palette. Okay? So now all of these layers, or all these tomatoes, are on different layers. They're all duplicates of the original. All right, that was easy enough. Let's go ahead and move on to the grilled chicken breast, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab some of these individual chicken breasts. Now, we've still got the white background, but we may not be able to do the quick select as easily as we did the tomato. So I'm going to start making a selection here, but what I'm going to do is after I've made the original selection, start making it easy enough there, I'm going to go ahead and hold Alt. Let me see if I can blow this up. And I'm going to say, alright, this color of chicken is what I want you to start keying in on, but I don't want you to pay attention to this white on the outside. Oh, there we go. So, essentially, what I'm telling it to do is limit its selection to just this chicken without going off to the white. And that will make my selection much cleaner in the end. And you'll notice that it did limit the selection. So I made an initial selection, said start selecting this pinkish colored chicken. But after the initial selection, now again, I didn't try and do the whole thing. After the initial selection, then I went outside to things that I didn't want it to select, and I clicked on those. What this did was again say, I want this, but avoid this color, this color, this color, this color, and this color. Then as I continued the selection, it would say, all right, keep tracking what I'm selecting, but avoid anything that was these colors that I specified early on. It's a way of being much more specific with the selections that you're making. Now, that's very large, so I can scale it down, drop it off where I want it to be, maybe lock it in, duplicate it in various places, and rotate it. I'm not trying to make a work of art necessarily, just dropping in some chicken various places. Okay, maybe I want that piece of chicken above that tomato, so I'll go into the layer of that piece of chicken. I'm going to turn my auto select on here. Let's make sure we're on that layer, and I'm just going to drag it up in the layers palette above the tomatoes. There we go. Now the chicken is above the tomato. That's easy enough. All right. Now we're going to work with these mushrooms. The mushrooms are a little bit different. The mushrooms are different in that in some of the cases, the mushrooms have areas that we can see through the mushroom. So we want to make sure that we do the selection in such a way as to eliminate these areas where we can see through the mushroom. Now, I'm going to start again with the quick select tool. I'm going to make a selection to start with, hold Alt and tell it, okay, avoid this white. And I'm just going around in the white, and I'm just clicking in certain places while holding Alt. This is going to again say, avoid the white. I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller using the left bracket. And you'll notice that it's avoiding the white right here. Oh, it just selected it. It's just too close, but we can work with this. I've made a nice selection of my mushroom, but now I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to track over. I'm going to add this little section right here. Take this section of white out. See how the colors are very close to one another? And now I need to clean this up. I need to clean it up because these colors are just too darn close to one another, especially when we're talking about shadows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start combining what I was doing with my quick selection, and I'm going to use the magnetic lasso. So here I'm going to take this shadow area out. Start on the outside, hold Alt, and then follow the line of the mushroom just up here. Click to drop an anchor point, and then circle back out. And boom. There we go. And I'm going to do some more of this. Just drop, drop, drop. We're going to continue dropping points. Okay. We're going to, again, come in here now. We've got this issue with all of this space. So holding Alt, I'm just going to follow this area as best I can inside the mushroom. I'm going to drop some anchor points as we go, just by clicking. It's having a hard time differentiating the color. It's okay. I'm just dropping anchor points, being very specific. May look a little bit raggedy, but it's actually going to be pretty smooth when we're done. Just like that. Okay, if I really wanted to get specific, I could zoom in even more. And I did this with a motorcycle piece not too long ago, where I wanted to get inside the spokes. I could come in, hold Alt with just the normal lasso, and this is freehanding. I could just circle out the pieces that I wanted to take out. So I'm looking for very specific areas where I might want to eliminate from my selection. So for example, right there, take that out. And so this is being very specific with my selection. If I wanted to, let's say, freehand take sections of this out, I could do that. This takes a little bit of practice to have a steady hand while you're making these selections. But you can see how it actually works pretty well most of the time. Just circle out real big. Again, we can let go outside of our selection because we're just cutting things off. We're okay. It's all right. We're going to cut these parts out as well. No, we're having fun with mushrooms right now. And we'll say this is good for our purposes. We zoom back out and we've got a nice selection with this hole cut out. Now, whenever we move this part into our salad, what you'll notice is now we see the salad through the mushroom. So we can start making a composite image, as we make a composite image, we're now seeing that we have numerous images, and even places where we see holes in images, we see the other images in the background through it. This is one of the big, one of the mandatory parts of design. Whenever you're working with images that need to look as though they are occurring in reality. Obviously, you wouldn't want to be able to see solid white there because obviously you've got a salad behind it. You would want to make sure that you have everything that you need, or that you can see everything that would be behind your mushroom here. Now, this is obviously a quick one, but yeah, I think it gets the point across. Now, we'll do something a little bit more complex with this onion. So, first thing I'm going to do is use the magnetic lasso tool. I'm going to click, and I'm going to follow the onion. So we're just going to grab this top one. We're going to go ahead and try and make this cut the best we can. Again, we're working on a white background, which makes this a little bit easier. Not taking too long because we can always come back and clean it up. Drop it off. Okay? Now, if I wanted to, I could go back and clean that up. On the inside, I want to take out all of this because, again, we just want the ring. So I'll go in, hold Alt, and then start dropping the points. And I'm circling around. Oh, on the inside, don't want to go crazy here. Now, I don't want to go too slow because it will start having issues with automatically dropping points where I don't want it to go. So you kind of want to maintain a certain pace with the understanding that you can always go back and clean this up later. Okay, so if I wanted to here, I could always zoom back out and cut this section. Just bloop, 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 circle out, and clean that section up if I wanted to. This is okay for my purposes. I've got a nice ring. I can drag, drop this onto my salad layer, and I should be able to see everything underneath it without too much of a problem. So I've got a nice big onion right there with all the other layers showing behind it. Okay, so this is a basic way of creating a composite image. An image that is a composition or that is a composite of numerous other images. Now, I can do things like add shadows, add bevels. There's any number of things that can be done to make these things look as though they belong in this image more naturally. But this is the first step, learning how to use your lassos and selections, how to make quality cuts, and sometimes you just need to spend a little bit of extra time making your selections, then cleaning up your selections. So don't rush it, take your time, and you should be on your way in no time at all.